Alright, so today I'm going to be installing the mount for the radio, and I got this diamond K400 antenna mount. I've heard very good things about it, and it fits in a whole variety of places, which is going to be good for me. So I've got this, and I bought, it didn't come with a protective cover for the NMO mount, so I got one because I'm not sure how long it's gonna take me to finish this project, and also if I do ever need to take it off, I just wanted something to keep the contact nice and clean, especially if it's gonna be in the winter. So basically I got these little instructions. They're easy enough. You just mount it kind of wherever. There's a little protective bracket that you use, so that is here, and so you got this protective bracket, and basically we're going to mount it, and that protective bracket is to protect the body against the set screws. Now the only thing though about that is it also suggests that you ground it, which certainly makes sense, right? And so the way you ground it is by pushing the set screws through the paint, and so it says you should cut that reinforcement strip so that the edge hex set screws make contact with the metal through the paint. So we're going to test that out. I looked around for a good place for this, and where I want to put it is on the hood of the car. So I'm going to put it right up here. A lot of people, put it on the top for best reception, but I've got a roof rack up there, and so I don't want to choose between putting stuff in my roof rack or using the antenna, so that's kind of out. And then the other place you typically use it, put it, is the back. We use the back a lot, so we put our strollers in there. It's also our diaper changing station, and it's I don't want a big old antenna for us to get all caught up on. The other thing is we have a nice basket that we attach to our trailer hitch, and so there's just too much going on back there. It's not worth it. So we're gonna slide it on right here, and I put it on the passenger side instead of, well, let me take a step back here. What are we gonna do? So after I mount it on, I'm gonna just feed it along somewhere, and we gotta figure out how we're gonna get through the firewall. And this is actually super convenient, because on the Subaru there's a couple grommets that go into the firewall. Let's see if we can see them. So here's one, right there, and then that's on the passenger side, and then on the driver's side there is one right here, and there's also one, you can just see it, that little yellow marker is one. And so you might be saying, what is that? And so this is super convenient. So on the automatic version, this is a 2014 Subaru Outback, on the automatic version of this car, there is the grommet where more wiring and stuff would go for the manual version. That's a completely open grommet that we're going to have easy access to without any risk of nicking other wires or damaging any of the OEM fittings through the firewall. So that's great. So now you might say, well, if the really easily accessible grommet is on this side, why don't we mount the antenna on the driver's side? And the reason for that is twofold. The first is, I went to a parking lot, looked at a bunch of old cars. All the antennas were on the passenger side, so made me think maybe that's the way I should do it. Thinking about it, I suspect it's to minimize obstruction of the driver's view, so you don't want an antenna whipping around on your side. So everyone seems to, at least the cars I looked at, put it on the passenger side, so that's for safety. That's what we're going to do, so it's not in the way. Okay, so it's right there. So this, you can see this, I think this is like some sound dampening. So there's a sound dampening that was hiding it, and then right up here you can see, okay, fine, oh, there we go. You can see that grommet. So we're going to come out right there, then we got to feed the wiring to where I want it, which is over here. So this is where I'm mocking everything up. And so this is a mock-up for a Yaesu radio, and then I've also got a mount for my handheld, which is going to temporarily be what I use until I get this whole thing set up. What we need to do, the easiest way I think to get the coax from that grommet over here is going to be to go through the empty space in the center console. And I already figured out how to get this off because I mounted this really nice, what's it called? It's called, the company is Panavice, and I'll show it what it looks fully assembled. But basically, you mount this L bracket into the center console behind the plastic bezel, and then you can mount whatever accessories you want on top of it. So that is going to be very helpful to me. Now, if you look up the directions, they tell you to use like a dashboard tool to pry all the little clips. I found a video that showed a much easier way. I've done this now several times, and I hope I don't at some point break the clips. But so all you have to do is you open up the center console little door thing, and you just gently pull and wiggle back and forth. And for me, it's a little stiffer than it might be because I've already installed this here, and that adds additional pressure because it's not actually supposed to have anything in here. But if you just gently wiggle it, oh, there you go. Just to follow up on this, all I did is there's one screw here that mounts the AC, the climate control unit in, and I just unscrewed one screw, screwed this in, and then put the whole thing back on. This worked just fine. So now that I've got this open, you can see we have all of this open space in here. And so this is where we're going to route the coax cable to the passenger side, which is where I want it, and any slack that we have I'm going to just store in here. And so if you look in here, there's plenty of room to oh, you can see my fingers. This is my finger under the steering wheel near the grommet. So we're gonna route it through there, and then similarly we'll route it right down there, and it's gonna come out. This is now the plastic by the passenger side. It's gonna come out right out here, and then it will be in this general area. Alright, so I have it mounted on here, and so what I did is I put it as close to where the where the hood starts to bend. And so I wanted it on a completely straight part. And then you can see here, there's that little piece of aluminum. By the way, when I trimmed that aluminum, I just used some some diagonal pliers. It was super thin. Even sharp scissors probably would be fine. And so you can see some of the set screws don't go in as far because of the protective piece, and some go in deeper because I screwed it right into the hood. You gotta actually make sure it's grounded. So I have my multimeter set to, this is, it beeps if there's a connection. I think it's the continuity setting. Anyway, if you make contact, if there's a short or a complete circuit, it will beep. So the first thing I wanted to do is, you'll note I've got one probe here. If I touch this other bolt, it's not going to beep. Okay, sometimes it beeps, sometimes it doesn't. That's just some oxidation. So I just took some sandpaper on this one, on that bolt, and on this bolt. And you can, so just to make sure that, it's always good to test these things on something that you know should work, so that if you're then having problems, you're not troubleshooting the wrong thing. So now, if I touch the hood, right, the hood's metal, but look, the hood is not grounded. It's not grounded because it's painted, okay? And so you gotta keep that in mind. And now though, if I touch the set screw, there we go. So there is a ground here, so we're gonna. I think it might be fine. Over time, it might be more likely to unground because of oxidation, and those are very small connection points. But I think let's try it and see if it performs well. So now the next thing is, now that we know we have a ground, we got to figure out. Well, let's get some basic idea of how we're gonna route the wire, and then we gotta puncture that grommet. So we've got the coax cable. It's very thin. I do have loom, but honestly, I think that might be more trouble than it's worth, because I think I can just route it right under here. You gotta be careful, right? I mean, engines get hot. You know, make sure you have a pretty decent idea of engines get hot. They also move. You definitely don't want it near a moving part. That would be super bad, and you don't want it near anything hot. So you can see, you know, all the other wiring is in looms, right? You can see it all down there. So that's a indication that maybe you should use looms. I'm thinking maybe right up along here, because I do need to get over that grommet. So I got this tool. Looked at a bunch of different ways. I settled on this one. This is a wire, I don't remember what it's called. I'll link it in the description. But this is, it will puncture a grommet, and you can actually feed a wire through it. Now that would be super useful, but the coax, I don't know the right names of any of these stuff, but the coax connector, this is an SMA connector, and it's too thick to go through here. So I'm gonna just puncture it. I have reasonable access, so I'm just gonna use this for puncturing, and then I'm gonna go underneath and just gently pull it. You don't want to pull too hard from the connector itself. You can you know, somewhat disconnect it. So we're gonna, I don't know, I guess let's just do it live, I suppose. So we'll just do it right nice in the center. I already checked what's on the other side. That's an important step. And oh, there we go. And we're just gonna gently push it. Looks like I might actually be, I might push the, oh, there we go. Okay, so there we go. Push that in. You want to use something round rather than, you don't want to use a knife to just mark an X, cut it in an X, because then when you push the wire through, you're going to have a lot more you know, it's not going to be as flush to the wire itself, and the moisture could get through, anything could get through, and that's no good either. So I'm going to just push this through. I'm not going to be able to record that part, but I'll be back. Alright, so I did almost exactly what I said not to do, which was be super rough with the connector itself, because that was just hard to get in. So what I did, so here's the thing, that tool I used was a little too small for this part, the connector, but it was perfectly fine for the cable itself. So I didn't want to make a big hole just for this, because then when you feed it through, like I said, too much moisture and stuff can get through that grommet. Now, so what I did is I pushed it from the front as hard as I could, and then I just took a flathead and I tried to stay on the metal part as much as possible, and I just used it as some extra pressure to just push it right through. We'll see. So now, if the radio or if the antenna doesn't work, the first thing I'll do is diagnose this connector, because I know I've been a little too rough on it. Not an end of the world situation. I can cut this. I'll just splice a new SMA connector on. I'd prefer not to, but what you gonna do? The point is, it's in here now, nice and good. And so you can see it, what we'll do. So I'll just now gently pull this, and you can see a little bit of light coming through as I pull it. But for the most part, it seems pretty good. So I'm just gently pulling this. And once this is in place, I'll smush this fabric back
as well. So we got ourselves a good amount of line here. Oh my goodness. So now, let me talk a little bit more about figuring out, oh gosh, and see, this is why you gotta be careful. You know, if you feel any tension, stop pulling. So you gotta think a little bit about where this is gonna go. And you gotta look at in all positions. So, right, you have it up here, you need to keep in mind this is gonna move, this is gonna move when you close the hood. And so I wanted to avoid putting it in this area because there's lots of movement in this area, lots of movement in this area. I originally had it feeding right here, but then when I gently closed the hood, it was much too tight, and I was worried about pinching. So it looks actually like up here is probably the best. And the other thing is, you know, you want to be a little careful about here, because if I wrap this back around, then this is now pinched really bad. So we got this here. The other thing is when you do this, you got to keep in mind the right slack in the coax itself for opening and closing. Okay, so I ended up not going with too much loom. So we're here we are here, we go down, and the reason for this is, so first, the kit came with these little 3M tabs, and that just worked really convenient for right along here. I put a tab, I washed it down with some rubbing alcohol and dried it off. Tab there, tab there. I did use some loom right here into the grommet because it connects, it touches other stuff here, right? And so I figure put a little bit of loom right there. Now we'll watch it here. See how it closes. Seems to close just fine, I would say. We get a little slack here, but that's totally okay, I think. I might clean it up a little bit more at some point, but it's not in the way of anything. I'm pretty confident of that. I don't know if you're going to be able to see, but I think you're going to just have to take my word for it. So I just put the fabric back on where the grommet was. I pushed it back in. You can see, I think, maybe right there, I did zip tie the coax cable to that cable bundle because this is a little bit close to the accelerator. And you definitely don't want those wires in the way. So I did zip tie it right there, and then I came right through here. I didn't have to take any of the center console or any of these pieces off or anything. I just gently fed them through. And so here is the spare wire. I zip tied it again, and then it comes down through here, and I've just used electrical tape for the moment until I finish up the setup and I know exactly how much space I need. Alright, so I actually finished this project quicker than I was expecting, and my son's still asleep, so I said, well, let's throw the antenna on there real quick and just see if this even works. So this is the other piece of the Panavise, so it just connects onto there, and then they have all kinds of different adapters and mounts. I didn't find one I super liked. It's mostly for cell phones and stuff. I didn't find one I super liked, especially for my handheld, which is all I have at the moment. And so I found this other brand. I'll link it. I think it's actually specifically for Baofeng, so it doesn't, the lip is not quite the right size for the clip of the handheld, but that's okay. I'm gonna just Dremel it down a tiny bit, and then the mic will fit here and the radio will fit here, like you'll see in 1 second. And I just zip tied it because I got to take it off and Dremel it. And then here's the antenna. I just screwed it on. I've got to play, the mount has a couple degrees of freedom, so when I first screwed it on it was like all kiltered, right, because the hood is a little not level to the ground. So I just adjusted that with the Allen wrench that they provided, and so this is not a super final setup. I'm just tossing it in real quick to see if it works at all. Alright, so here we are with the setup. It's a little cramped, and the door doesn't, this
yeah, so, but it's fine. It's a perfectly fine, I would say, temporary situation. I took off my, this guy is nice. I like, you know, the little antenna that comes with it is fine. This guy is, it helped me get just a little bit better reception. I'm really the kind of edge of what I think this 270 can handle. I really like it. It's incredibly robust and damage resistant, which is good because I have a very rambunctious toddler, and robustness in my hobbies is kind of a requirement at this point. And so this radio is great for, has been great for that. But yeah, it's a little underpowered for what I really want to do, but that's okay. It creates a bit of a fun challenge. So I plugged it. I plugged it in. We're just doing a quick test here, and we'll just check the weather.
29 a.m. Sunday, September 19th. This afternoon.
And that's great. That is better reception than I get on the little antenna, and significantly better reception than I get in the car with the with no antenna. So, all right, pretty good, I would say. I think this worked out good. So I gotta decide on the main radio that I actually want. I'm gonna do more research into that. I gotta clean up a couple more connection points to make sure everything's nice and secure, but this is, I'd say this is a success. I'm pretty happy with this.